last week, and I mean literally last Monday and Wednesday, I wasn't able to put out episodes. Not because I didn't have them or had an issue with my equipment like I did a few months back, but because I really didn't feel connected with the content anymore. And not just with the episodes I had planned to put out those days, but I mean like from the weekend and then into Monday and then Tuesday and then even Wednesday and even all through to Friday and Saturday, I just didn't feel like the 5 to 9 Job podcast was living up to this pedestal I had put it on. Luckily, the Friday episode aired because I had scheduled that one some time back, but I was this close to making a radical change. I was literally thinking of either spinning off the show simply because I have gotten so many formats out there. I have the Monday episode that I usually talk about something meaningful, something that can help us. And then the Wednesday episode, I had reserved those to be the diary entry episodes where I just speak my mind and have this sort of fluid structure to the episode whereby I'm just sharing anecdotes, things that I have learned through the week, and thoughts I would just like to share and put out there and maybe get good at articulating. And then on Friday, I would share some sort of speech or talk or just a more concentrated message. Sometimes it's on your why. A couple of weeks back, it was Steve Jobs on love and loss, and all these other talks I've shared from Dr. Jordan Peterson, from Denzel Washington, from Matthew McConaughey. And I feel like, or I felt like, anyway, I still do, that vision has strayed far beyond the reason I started the podcast. Because when I was thinking of the name, the 5 to 9 Job podcast, I was thinking that this would be a podcast that encouraged people to go after the lives they wanted using the hours beyond 5 to 9. Because a few years back, I got into this practice of spending my whole time during the 9 to 5 working on the job and whatever I was doing. Let it be school, let it be the internship that I was doing at the time, or all these other curricular activities that I used to fit into that specific time. And then whenever it would clock 5, I would then change into this mode that would be more about how do I make Raymond better. So I thought that would be a good theme for the podcast and something I could share with the world. But then going into the podcasting world, I think I got a bit distracted with doing things that were easier. So that is sharing a talk, and then all I need to do is speak for 3-4 minutes just to supplement that and then add my name to everything, and it's literally my content. Or on the simple diary episodes, because like I've said, those diary entry episodes are so easy to make because these are thoughts that I have been having and I don't need to stick to talking about one thing, let me say like communication. No, I mean, I jump from relationships to working a 9 to 5 to playing sport to health. I jump all around the place that it is just so easy to spend 30 minutes talking and it literally goes by in a few seconds. So I have had so many versions and I feel like all that doesn't fulfill the higher purpose that I started this podcast. The first one was to share that kind of transformative outlook on life that you could actually use these hours beyond 5 p.m. and just before 9 a.m. when you go for your job. And obviously, there are all these other activities that fit into that time. You're commuting home or you're spending time with family, but all that is part of the 5 to 9. Because once you're commuting home, you could listen to a podcast, you could talk to your wife if she's in the car with you, you could do a different number of things that just feed into you. And then when you are spending with family, that is still part of the 5 to 9 philosophy. When you are reading a book, when you are watching news, although I don't really do that, but that's all trying to build this person. And then when you become more intentional about how you spend those hours, because the thing I looked at was that if from 9 to 5, you're spending, let me say, roughly 8 hours, you sleep for 8 hours, that means that between the hours of 5 p.m. to 9 a.m., which are 16 hours, if you take away the 8 that you're sleeping in, it means that you are spending 8 hours unconsciously. You don't know where that time is going. And that's literally a third of your life that is just going and being thrown into the wind. So I just wanted to make us more intentional on how we spent that time. But looking at the content so far, I think I got so distracted with trying to gain listeners for the podcast early enough, trying to flood the market with a lot of episodes. I mean, at one point, my whole strategy to this was, okay, you know what? I'm going to try to put out as many episodes as I can, and hopefully volume will attract listeners. But clearly, that isn't working. So I found myself with this sort of mini existential crisis, but it wasn't something big, you guys. I was thinking about the why I started this podcast, and how it has gone on to change, because just a few months back, at the beginning of this year, actually 2025, I decided that I wanted this also to be a platform that raised others, that celebrated other creators. That's why we introduced the Creator of the Week segment, and we try to encourage other creators, or we would open our platform onto listeners that want to air an episode, or just find somewhere to try and fail without going into the whole podcasting thing and all the logistics. So when I think through all that, and then I go through the process I had made towards those goals, I mean, I had barely made any tangible progress, and that's what was keeping me down. I myself have talked about your why being the reason you keep going, but I started to doubt that, just because deep down, even when we don't want to accept it, we want to be validated, and then the metrics aren't really good right now. And considering the work I have put into the episode, the ridicule from family and friends that have come across one of the episodes or some of the content online and have said a few things, maybe not hurtful to the objective person, but to me, their words did sting. So yeah, the thoughts, the lack of progress, not just with the podcast right now, but with other aspects of my life, I had just started to question it all. So here I am for another therapy episode. I hope that I don't drag this out too long, because I really have no structure to this. I just wanted to speak my mind and then see where my thoughts drive me. But I also have a few resolutions that I have made that I wanted to discuss during the podcast. So it's not going to be like I'm on a rant or anything. No, I actually had a script for this, but have thrown it away and just have a few notes I think will guide my discussion today. So the first one is, I really didn't want to do this episode today. Like, literally, I have had this period between yesterday and today whereby all the factors were in my favor not to do this. Like, everything was just against me. There was literally there's not been power for almost the last, I should say, 56 to 72 hours, almost 3 days. So not having my PC powered, not having having all the inconvenience of having to use a bulb, and then a torch and a flashlight. Everything was just pointing me towards, you know what, come on, you can slack off. You have this big excuse that, I mean, all your machines are down, you can't get them charged, you'd have to take it to get charged somewhere else and then come back with it. So anyway, I finally took my PC to actually like a shop just a few yards away. They had power. I got it charged. Now it's full. I hope it will charge my phone. And here I am recording this episode, and hopefully I'll have it edited and posted before my PC blacks out. But yeah, I really didn't want to do this episode, but I have to do it, because that means that tomorrow, Monday, no episode goes out. And if no episode goes out Monday, that means I sort of have lost momentum, because that carries me that negative momentum carries me into Wednesday. And I know, obviously, the Friday episode is already scheduled. So it will be again a second week without me posting, or without anything going out there. And I mean, that's enough to kill the dream, I believe, anyway. So this is me taking an active stand in not letting that happen. I have also been feeling lazy, like a lot, like very lazy. I've been trying to fight procrastination like actively. I have misused most of the hours during this weekend simply because I had that excuse. I have barely had an exercise in, and yet I should have, seeing that I had all this free time. I did at least get to read a book, though it was a novel, and yeah, it was a bit edgy. It's one of those 50 Shades things. Anyway, I think it was okay. Let's just not get into the details, but it was a really spicy novel. Finished it, but wow. And I do realize that part of the stress and what is putting me in this analysis paralysis, or what I think is analysis paralysis, is that I do have a high standard on myself and the things I want to achieve and how fast I want them to come. And it's not delusional for me to want these things to come now because I have worked hard to get some of them. It is impossible to count how many people. Okay, I think it is possible to count how many people have 60 episodes out for their podcast. Today I was listening to Chris Williamson and the episode he did with Stephen Bartlett some time back, but I was just listening to it today. Oh, I also did listen to a lot of podcasts this weekend, so I guess that's also a bonus. But the statistic they gave was that just by doing 21 episodes, you're already in the 90%. I mean, you have beat 90% of all podcasters out there, because I think the stat was like X number of people don't go beyond 5 episodes, and then 90% don't go beyond 20 episodes. Yeah. And I now have coming to 70 episodes out, and I just thought that by the time I clocked 70, it would be moving a lot faster than it is. Yeah. And then obviously, like I said, I have all these other things going on in life. There are really big decisions that I am struggling with right now. A few very big decisions. And yeah, I was actually listening back to an episode I did. I think that was yesterday. And there was a section where I said a lot of the kids out there are making decisions at a point in life when they have no experience in making the decision, and are literally making the most important decisions of their lives with no experience, with zero to no guidance, just because grown-ups are out there trying to, survive in the economy that we have, and they sort of can't worry about the mental health of their kids and everything when they have to worry about all these other things, just because there are a lot of moving pieces that are, I mean, happening. Everything is happening right now. There is so much anxiety a parent can have right now, a kid that can, I mean, why we leave these decisions to kids that literally don't know what they are doing. Yeah. And we expect them to do well in life without guiding them. So I am not trying to say I've not been guided, because I also know, for one, that I am a person that doesn't really like to ask for help. So maybe that's also another weakness that I have, that, I haven't been forward with asking my parents, asking my friends for advice on some of the issues that I am silently struggling myself with. So yeah, I also don't want to rant so much in this episode. So let's move on to a few takeaways that I have got through meditating and thinking about this, because I do want to at least drop some value in every episode. And if you've listened this far to my sad story, I mean, I should leave you with something. So I now know that, number one, anyway, I now know that all the guys that are always talking to you to do this, to have a routine, to not give up, to succeed in life, to do goal setting. All these guys that are always trying to give you advice, to guide you in the right direction, to try to help you. I know that they are also going through the same things they are talking to you about. And if you are a creator, it sort of hits you hard when you are telling people to always get up early and attack the day, and sometimes you fail to get up early and attack the day. You know, like currently, right now, with everything that I'm facing, with the juxtaposition that I'm in with some of the areas in my life that I have talked about extensively on the podcast, I I sit there and I'm like, okay, like Raymond, who are you to tell these guys what to do, how to do it? And every week you sit down and tell them, if you are facing this, then you need to do this when you yourself are also struggling with the same thing. So I just started to realize that, because I've always felt like a hypocrite for saying things and then 2 weeks, 3 weeks after, yes, I follow them, but then I keep falling back down. And yeah, so I'm just learning that each one of these guys that tells you that this is how you run a business, and then this is how you run your life, this is how you plan your thing, I'm starting to understand that they are always telling you that because it's also a daily practice that they do. Most of them, anyway. I mean, some of them, anyway. Those who are like genuinely out to help you. People will tell you to journal because they have seen the value that comes from journaling. I tell you guys to journal because I have seen the value that comes from journaling. But sometimes I have to be factual. I don't journal as much as I should be because I want to have this daily communion with myself. But most of the time, I will skip 2 days. I'll skip a day. I'll skip 4, 5 days. I try not to go above 5, but I mean, like, there will be those days where I don't follow something that I said or something that I recommended. And as a creator, that doesn't make me a hypocrite. That's simply what I'm trying to understand and pound into myself, not because I'm trying to give myself a consolation, but because that is the fact. I mean, like, every other creator out there will tell you that, I talked about this, but I also struggle at it. And it's just because they're either trying to help you, some are doing it for the clicks and the gram, but I mean, most of them or some of them are really trying to help you. And if you are a listener, just be kind to them. We also fall. And if you are a listener and you want to hold yourself to their high standard, just know that they also fall. So, I mean, don't be so harsh on yourself when you miss the 5 day workout or something like that. Come on. They also do miss those days. I know there are guys who have gone consecutively for 365 days doing X or Y or Z, but I mean, that doesn't need to be you. But, some of these guys are just obsessive with what they want. They go through all that and they follow it religiously just because they are obsessed. When you find that one thing that you are obsessed with, trust me, you will also be that determined. You'll be that religious. But on these other things, or on the majority of the things in life, you can't hold yourself to that standard and then, choke the life out of you just because you haven't met that standard. Okay. And then, two is that everyone always says don't give up, fail and get back up. But it's easy to say, but doing it is hard, like really hard, especially in the moment. So I have experienced a lot of failure. A lot of failure. I mean, there is one or two projects right now that I just feel like I'm always constantly failing and failing and failing. And considering that I also do some coding and programming on the side, you guys, for anyone that writes code, you will know that every single day you get up to debug, and you're trying to work with all these frameworks that are always changing. That one thing that is in your code that throws an error on the whole back end, and you just can't seem to figure it out. But I don't know. I still haven't cracked this one. Failing and getting back up is really hard, especially in the moment. And I guess that's where most people actually get trapped in the moment, like the moment right after you have failed. I don't think the fear of failure is what is stopping me from doing most of these things. I just don't want to go through that moment right after failure. which I think also translates into the fear of failure. But I mean, something like a few months ago, I left my 9 to 5. I wasn't afraid of not having the whole stability and everything. But now that I have failed in some of the endeavors and everything, the one thing that I know would have kept me there would have been this period and how hard it has been. So, um, I think I'm going to do an episode and research on something like this and how I can just help myself and maybe encourage all of you. But yeah, it's really something that everyone says you can do it, but it's really, really hard to do while in the moment, which should be obvious. Yeah. Okay, on to the third one. So, the other thing I have been saying to myself is that it's not about you. So I adopted this slogan. I think like a month back after I journaled. I think it was around the third. So after the whole journal process, I realized that I was taking a few things too personally in my life. Uh, a few things were completely unrelated to me, and I just used to either assume that it was someone making a move against me or that this was happening because I was part of the situation or that, some of the bad luck was because I was there. I was making it so much about me, you know, in everything I was trying to do. In the friendships I had started to question some of them and say, what is in it for me? You get it? Uh, in a lot of things, and I just saw that that trend was going to get me nowhere. So I developed this habit of telling myself when something happens at the office, it's not about you. Even when, let me say, one of your employees does something and you really see this is something that they should have been more careful with. This is something you have trained them on more and more and more. And then you just see them get beat down by it, and you're like, okay, you know what? Does this make me a bad manager? Does this make me a bad person for thinking they should have done this? But yeah, I was just trying to disassociate myself from a lot of the things that I obviously blame on myself because of that high standard. But then it contradicts in some situations, especially when you need to put yourself first, for example, when you are the biggest loser in the decision or in that situation, when it's your responsibility, situations like that. The whole it's not about you thing goes away because in that moment, it is about you. I mean, we can all think of situations in our workplace, in our family, in conversations when you need to stand up for yourself. In that situation, it is all about you. So now I am thinking I don't know shit when it comes to not taking things personally, and I'm admitting that I was wrong there. And admitting that you are wrong is okay. And actually, that's the whole point that I wanted to make, though I went through a whole jungle before reaching here. But yes, the point is that it is okay to admit when you are wrong. It's all right to test your beliefs, it's all right to test your life map, to check and see that what you think, what you are guiding your life on, or whatever, when you see contradictions, pull at that thread and then see and think about it. You know, don't fool yourself into sticking to false narratives. Be a long life learner. Seek improvement, seek knowledge, and don't be afraid to be vulnerable with yourself because you are all you really have at the end of it all. When you start to lie to yourself, you start to fall back in all these other fields. When you start to lie to yourself, you start to not keep the promises you make to yourself. You start to not trust yourself. You start to self sabotage. You start to actively seek out things that are not good for you. And I guess that's one of the things that has caused me to go into this period that I am in, the lack of self accountability. saying I'm going to do one thing and then easily, just as easily, brushing it off the next morning, telling myself I need this, I'm going to work hard to get this, and then just as easily laying it off and not doing it. And sooner or later, that becomes evidence in your mind, in your subconscious, that you know what? I don't think this guy loves himself enough because everything he says he's going to do, he doesn't do. I don't think this guy is serious about his thing because whenever he says he's going to sit down and then write that article or record that episode or work on his business or sit down and work on that code project, he doesn't actually get it done. He doesn't actually sit down. He would rather do X, Y, Z. That messes up your whole motivation. It puts you down and it throws you off. So, all in all, just to say that I know that I have been bullshitting myself there as well. I know that sometimes I want to be the overachiever. Sometimes I want to be the one who gets something done. And part of this whole thing of it's not about me was supposed to stop me from that. It doesn't have to be me to run the company that I run right now. If there's someone that is more capable than me, then they should be able to do that. I do need to give them the platform to do that. It doesn't need me to be the one that creates the next $1 billion business for Uganda by a Ugandan. It doesn't need to be me, but I do want to do that. I don't know if it's something that contradicts your calling in life, or I really don't know. But I am admitting now that to myself that I do not keep the promises I make to myself. I have gone out of my way to put a facade of productivity, to take on a lot of projects that clearly I can say no to, but I don't want to say no to. And then to cut off these other projects that I know I really didn't want to say yes to. There was this whole thing that I don't remember the guy, but he was a product designer at Apple, and he told the story whereby Steve Jobs came to him and said that when Steve Jobs came back to Apple the second time round, he went through this reorganization of Apple whereby he slashed away managers and he was trying to boost creativity. So in his actions, he also cut off these projects that they were going into that weren't really going to pan out or that the team wasn't really interested in doing, you know? And he just cut off all these projects and he called it something like, okay, uh, go and look at the projects you have going on. Say no to everything else but one, and then do that. So what this guy noticed was that he would put projects onto his to-do list so that he could say no to them and then keep this specific group so that when someone asked them, have you said no? Which projects have you said no to this week? He would say, oh, I've said no to, out of my 10, I've said no to 8. But there would be that one that I am protecting that I need to say no to so that I can focus on the remaining one. And all these 8 was just a facade so that I can tell myself that I have taken off or I have taken these off the plate just to focus on these 2. When actually I was protecting number 2 and I'm sacrificing number 1. So I'm also just thinking that, you know what? Yeah, I might need to step back from a few more projects. I might need to take some time away. I really haven't rested properly for, I think, the past 3 years. Like I've said, last year I had leave for like only 3 days. This year has been worse. I've tried to work through the weekends. I've tried to work in the evenings when I get back home. So I don't think it's a sustainable route without me actually having some clarity. Yeah. So I do know that I am going to continue doing the podcast, if I do decide on stopping to do the podcast, maybe I will get someone else to host it, because I think the progress that I have achieved shouldn't be lost in the wind with all the millions of podcasts that are out there that have just been stopped all of a sudden. Okay, not millions, but maybe hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there that are just on the cloud, just like ghost shows that have not been updated for like 3, 4, 5 years. And I know I do have about 10 episodes in stock, that I could schedule. That's why I was saying that I had the episodes, I had everything, I just didn't post them. So, yeah, this has been my very long meditation. And to anyone that has listened to this, wow, I know I'm going to listen to this over and over again. But to you, I really don't know how to say thank you. Yeah. And I guess that's it. Let me just try to think through all this and make sure that I do live the life that I want, because that has always been the overarching goal. I want to live a good life. And by saying a good life, I want to do all the things that are in the first page of my journal. I think about those things every day, every single day. And I think they really do have a part in my life that they they communicate to. They're about 5. That's not very many. And I don't have to do them all at once. I can go after one, and then the next, and then the next. And even if I got 3 done, that would be an amazing life. So, yeah. Thank you all for listening to this very weird meditative episode of the 5 to 9 Job podcast. My name is Raymond, and from the team here, kindly be back for another normal episode. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Bye bye.